You were trained to be soft, and now you're invisible. You used to believe that being kind would lead to love. You texted her on time. You listened. You waited for her to reply like a man hoping for crumbs of attention. You thought that proved you were a good guy. But let me say something that may hit you harder than you expect. She didn't leave because you were bad. She left because you were predictable. You weren't rejected because you're unattractive, poor, or talentless. You were rejected because you carried the energy of lack. Every message you sent, every time you checked in to make sure she was okay, was another way of saying, "You control my emotions." And the moment she feels that, game over. Not because she's cruel, but because her biology is wired to never crave what she fully possesses. Nobody told you this. They just told you, be yourself. But that version of you, the soft, over-explaining, approval-seeking version, is the reason you're sitting here alone, thinking about a woman who no longer thinks about you. You weren't rejected by women. You betrayed yourself first. And if you have the courage to face that, then stay with me. Because what comes next isn't a dating lesson. It's not a cheap trick. It's a battle plan to wake up the part of you that's been sleeping under all that niceness. You don't need to be chosen anymore. You need to choose yourself. It all starts with a beautiful lie, that if you love hard enough, give honestly enough, stay kind long enough, someone will stay. But then she didn't. The woman you cared for, the one you thought saw the good in you, ended up choosing someone else. Not kinder, not more patient, but the kind of man she couldn't control. Why? Because you're playing a game where you don't even know the rules. Most men were raised in an emotionally inverted system. We were rewarded for being safe, praised for being sensitive, for sharing feelings, for avoiding conflict. And we were told that would create connection. But here's the truth no one dared to say out loud. Women don't fall for what's easy to understand. They crave what they can't fully predict. And when you speak, act, and behave like you're begging for a chance, you don't spark desire. You kill it. You called it being real. She felt it as being too available. You called it showing love. She felt it as needing her more than she needed you. You thought you were giving, but what you were actually doing was trading your masculine edge for emotional crumbs. And here's where the pain becomes honest but necessary. You don't lack love. You lack emotional power. You lack the ability to sit with silence and not panic. You lack the presence that makes others adjust to you. You lack the unshakable principle that whispers, "I don't need to be chosen. I choose myself." Because when a man speaks from emotional need, every word becomes negotiation. But when a man speaks from grounded presence, even his silence has weight. This is where you must ask yourself, will I keep playing the game by someone else's rules, or will I start rewriting the terms? Because if you're hurting right now, good. That's the first sign you're waking up. Women don't fall in love with you. They fall in love with how they feel around you. It's brutal, but it's the truth. And if you still believe that saying the right things, acting polite, being consistent and sweet will win her over, you're fighting with logic in a game built entirely on instinct and emotion. Carl Jung once said, "People are not controlled by what they know. They're controlled by what they are unaware of." And the same goes for her. When a woman is drawn to a man, it's not because he checks off all the boxes in her rational brain. It's because he triggers something deeper, something ancient, chaotic, and uncontrollable. You think you're talking to her. No. You're talking to her ego, a silent radar, constantly scanning your words, your posture, your pauses, for one single thing. Can I control this man emotionally? If the answer is yes, desire dies. Not because she's cruel, but because evolution hardwired her to never lust after what she can dominate. You open your heart too fast. Text her nonstop, share your feelings too soon. Always agree, always available. And you think you're building connection. What you're actually doing is killing the mystery. And mystery is where desire breathes. Women don't chase nice guys. They chase men they can't fully figure out. It's not about being cold or toxic. It's about becoming a question, not a solution. Because the moment she can label you, predict you, and own you, the game is over. Think of it like electricity. You only get current when there's a difference in potential. Emotion works the same way. She needs tension, uncertainty, imagination. The quiet guy who listens more than he talks. The man who pauses before he speaks. The man who smiles slightly, but not apologetically. That man doesn't just say things, he makes her feel things. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. Men are driven not by truth, but by their perception of power. And when she perceives that you could walk away at any moment, even if you won't, you become unsettlingly attractive. She'll wonder, what is he thinking? Why isn't he chasing me like the others? Why do I feel like I don't fully have him? And that confusion, that's where obsession is born. You don't need abs or money or a silver tongue. You need to be less readable. Not fake, just less obvious. Let her imagination do the work. Because what a woman imagines, she starts to desire. And once she's thinking about you when you're not around, you're no longer just a man, you're a presence. You were once a mountain silent, grounded, immovable. But over time, culture handed you a shovel and whispered, dig yourself into something softer, something safe, something she can love. And now you're just scattered gravel. A nice guy with no fire in his eyes and a soul that's been traded away inch by inch for approval. Why? Because they taught you that to be loved, you must be likable. Be patient. Be gentle. Always available. Suppress your instincts. Smile more. Never challenge her. And over the years you started performing so well, you forgot it was a performance. But every time you gave in a little more, every time you silenced your edge to not upset her, you lost pieces of your masculine core. You thought it would make her stay. No, it made her lose respect. Quietly, deeply, irreversibly. Women don't despise you for being kind. They detach from you because they sense you've surrendered yourself. She may thank you for your sweetness, but deep down, she's suffocating in the presence of a man who lives just to please. Because here's the ugly truth. Appeasement does not create love. It breeds imbalance. And imbalance kills attraction. The modern good guy isn't unwanted because he's bad. He's unwanted because he has no gravity. He's weightless. He's appreciated but not pursued. Needed but never truly wanted. Perfect on paper. Invisible in reality. Because he has no boundaries. He lets others shape him, guide him, rewrite him. He bends to stay liked. And any man who's emotionally bendable will never be emotionally respected. And without respect, there is no real intimacy. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "The greatest form of despair is not being who you truly are." And that's what happened to you. You mistook kindness for submission. You confused comfort with connection. You became the soft edge of a man who used to have sharp lines, but sanded them down so much he forgot how to stand up straight. You don't need more compliments. You need a line in the sand. Not as punishment, as protection for your identity, your energy, your dignity. Because love is never born from agreement. It's born from clarity. And clarity only belongs to men who can say, I don't need you to understand me because I understand myself. That man, the one who's quiet, decisive, unshakable, that's the man she thinks about long after you're gone. And that man doesn't need to chase. He simply exists and lets the world adjust to his presence. So if you've ever felt ignored, replaced, disrespected, it's not because you weren't good enough. It's because you handed your power away. Smiling, softly, willingly. Modern masculinity didn't die. It was buried under nice words and false promises. But now it's your job to burn the costume you've worn too long and come back as something solid. You don't need more dating tricks. You don't need 10 magic lines to melt her heart. You don't need another checklist on how to be interesting. You need presence. You need the energy of a man who doesn't compromise. And that doesn't begin with what you do. It begins with what you stop doing. Stop texting novels when she replies with okay. Stop explaining your feelings to someone who stopped listening. Stop filling silences just to escape discomfort. Rebuilding your masculine power isn't about noise, it's about weight. And men with weight don't beg for attention, they command it through stillness. You want to know what real power looks like? It's not the man who talks the loudest. It's the man who knows when to walk away, not out of anger, but because he understands his value is not up for negotiation. Have you ever seen a lion explain why he didn't chase the gazelle? No, he simply stands there, and his presence alters the entire environment. That's who you must become, a man who knows that strategic silence is a weapon, the one who's not afraid of awkward pauses, the one who doesn't chase validation, the one who doesn't care if they get him because he gets himself. Your new life philosophy isn't, how do I get chosen? It's, I choose myself and I live accordingly. And something strange happens when you start operating on that frequency. Suddenly, the women who once saw you as an option start leaning in. The ones who used to control your mood begin to feel unsteady. The ones who ghosted you replay your silence. Why? Because men like you are rare. Because the man who doesn't need to be chosen is the hardest one to replace. Not because you're taller, richer, or smarter, but because you're centered. You don't chase, you don't react, you don't apologize for your standards. You move slower, but when you do, people notice. You speak less, but when you speak, it carries. You're not the most charming man in the room, but you are the most grounded. And people feel that difference even if they can't explain it. Kierkegaard once wrote, "The greatest despair is to not be oneself." Well, guess what? You're done living as someone else's idea of a man. You're done being the emotional teddy bear, the backup plan, the nice guy with no backbone. Now you're becoming dangerously calm, deliberate, focused, unapologetically selective, not bitter, boundaried. You're not afraid to be alone because you'd rather be alone with your dignity than surrounded with people who only value your softness. You're not looking for someone to complete you. You're looking to protect the man you're becoming, because now you're not chasing affection. You've become the man others either hold on to or regret losing forever. You were never rejected. You rejected yourself first. Every time you tried to prove your worth to someone who never asked for it. Every time you hit send on that long message hoping she'd finally see you. Every time you stayed quiet when you should have drawn the line. You told the world, my value depends on how I'm received. And in doing so, you gave away the crown before anyone ever tried to take it. You weren't too nice. You were too available to the wrong people. You weren't too emotional. You were too willing to explain your pain to those who didn't earn it. You weren't rejected by women. You were abandoned by the man you stopped being. But here's the part no one tells you. That man, he's not dead. He's waiting. He's buried beneath years of performance, fake smiles, and quiet desperation. And now, he's waking up. Not angry, clear, not bitter, focused, not loud, unshakably present. You're not here to be picked. You're here to pick yourself again and again until your presence becomes so grounded, so undeniable, that the world around you either rises to meet you or gets left behind. And if right now you feel something stirring inside like a beast shaking off years of sleep, don't ignore it. That feeling. It's not rage, it's remembrance. You're remembering who the hell you were before the world told you to shrink. Hold on to that. Feed it. Let it grow. And when you're strong enough to rise, don't rise alone. There's another man out there just like you, broken, confused, invisible to the woman he thought would stay. And he doesn't need advice. He needs a mirror. So if this spoke to you, share it. Not as a fan, as a soldier, as a brother, as a man reclaiming his place in a world that forgot what men are made of. The game was never about being loved. It was about becoming someone who doesn't need to be remembered because he's impossible to forget.